Okay, good morning, everybody. So, welcome to day 71 of compassionate response to COVID-19. It's getting up into high figures now. I'm starting to feel impressed with myself. Today, I'm really glad to have Amitasuri here. So, I've known Amitasuri for, I don't know, 20 years or something like that, and I've always been a really great admirer of her as a kind of powerful and compassionate woman. So we're going to have an interview later on, and so Amita Shiri works in what's your job again? It's spiritual practitioner.
Spirituality and well-being practitioner. Yeah.
Yeah, in a NHS trust in Nottinghamshire. So her job is to be in a way to be a Buddhist to help people with their in a way it's a bit like being a chaplain, isn't it? That sort of thing, and there's chaplaincy work involved in it as well. So yeah, so it'd be fantastic to hear all about that. But also, Amita Shuri's had quite a history of with medical conditions herself, and so maybe we'll hear a bit about that as well. The things that have happened, Anyway, that it's all whatever she wants to talk about. if she wants to talk about that, maybe she doesn't. I don't know. Anyway, so we'll start with a bit of body work and then do some meditation, and then we'll get onto the interview. So if you want to all stand up, we'll. Okay, so let's begin by just rub your hands together. And backs of your hands. Up the arms. We'll just do a little bit of swinging backwards and forwards. So just put your right foot forward. Just swinging backwards and forwards on your hips. Get into a nice rhythm. And maybe put your thinking aspect of your mind. So Buddhism, mind is also emotions, but put your thinking side of your mind just somewhere else. Imagine put it in another room or something, and that all we're doing now is we're just doing something with our body for our body's benefit. So, and then when we stop doing this, hopefully the body will support us better in meditation. So just let your arms just kind of flop forwards, then backwards. So the movement's coming from your foot into your hips, and then the arms are just doing their own thing. Take a few deeper breaths. So being patient, sometimes it takes time with our bodies for the desired effect to come about. The body works a lot on a slower time frame than the mind does. Mind's quite quick. So just being a bit timeless in your mind. Don't worry about time. And then put your left foot forward and same thing on the other side. Might take a bit of time to just get back into a rhythm on the other side once you've loosened up one side. And being aware of the world world outside your window. Listening to the sound, any sound that you can hear. It's maybe due to your arms brushing against your sides. Coming into the present moment. So there's nothing we can do about the past, it's gone. And while you can dream about the future, there's nothing you can do about that at the moment. It hasn't happened yet. So it's working in with your experience in the present moment. And thinking about the rest of the day and the benefit that will come from doing some body work, doing some meditation. Maybe your mind will be a bit sharper and you'll have more energy in your body. So in lockdown, I think we just need to keep being alive to what needs to happen next, through the day. Do we need to stop, do a bit more body work later on? Rather than just do it once? Do we need to do a bit more meditation later on? So we're creating the conditions for happiness for ourselves and others through working on our body, working on our mind and our emotions. And that it doesn't just come about on its own. We have to do something about it. Take responsibility. And just let your arms slow down. And then circling the hips. So imagining the four corners at the back there, to the right, to the front, to the left, to the back. And try to keep the body and mind together, so it's not like the mind's racing ahead of the body, and it's not like the body's ahead of the mind either. So mindfulness of the body, we're bringing mind and body into the same place. And maybe do some sort of circle with your arms, so sort of this sort of thing. Nice and slow. So we always need to be sensitive to what effect any exercise is having on our body, and looking for a particular result. So for me, this is is opening my stretching my muscles at the sides of the body, and it's waking my mind up a bit. giving me a greater sense of expansion. Okay. And then just shaking everything out. And then taking a seat for meditation. So now you're sitting down. Try to just connect with what you've just been doing and the energy that you might have developed in your body, and tuning into that, so that there's a sense that the energy is supporting you, giving you a sense of lift, and just taking your attention to the structure of your body, the bones of your body. And just spelling it out to yourself, the situation that you're in. So you're alive, you exist in time and space. And you've always got this body with you, and that your body has a particular structure to it. So it's got bones that support the weight, and muscles that move the body about, and organs that keep it alive. I'm just reflecting that the body knows how to sit down. It doesn't need any help from your mind to do that. So just let your body just sit there. And all you need to do is just balance your spine so that the weight of your body goes down into the chair or into the cushions. And just really taking your time to kind of wait for that to happen. So they say time is a healer, so it's often we just have to give things time in meditation. Just waiting for yourself to arrive. And waiting. And waiting. And if your body is balanced, your spine is balanced, your skeleton is balanced, then the muscles of your body will be able to feel confident that they can let go. So just being clear that relaxation is a physical thing. It's just like unfurling a fist. So just allow any tension in your body to just unfurl, just as if you're unfurling a fist. Just giving your weight to your skeleton to be held, to be taken down into the ground. And then your mind and emotions don't need to be concerned with your body, with holding your body up or anything like that. Your body will hold them up, in fact. They can just rest and feel supported. they can just feel free to engage with meditation. So we're going to do the Metta Bhavana, loving kindness meditation. So as you just allow your body to support you, tuning into your heart area, and connecting with a sense of care, with kindness towards yourself. Opening up your heart to yourself. May you be well. So trying to have a sense of what care actually feels like. So when we care for something, we want to kind of protect it. We want to look after it, be gentle with it. Having a sense of being nurturing towards ourselves. And just checking that you're still just letting your body just sit there, and that you're balancing your spine so that the weight's going directly down into the chair. And you're softening the muscles to get rid of any tension. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering and make progress. So we're looking for the actual emotion that mirrors those sentiments. The movement of our heart towards ourselves. Enthusiasm of our heart towards ourselves, towards our life, towards life itself. maybe thinking of the Dalai Lama and how he moves towards people all the time, wishing them well. So kindness can be as an emotion. Emotions can be weak or they can be strong. They're often about wanting something, so we can want something a little bit and we can want it a lot, but here we're wanting our own happiness. So can we turn the volume up a bit and want it a bit more than we do now? Make that the focus of our desires. So it's checking that you're still allowing your body to just sit there. Your mind and emotions don't need to be involved in holding your body up. That your body's balanced so that your muscles can just soften and furl, just like a fist unfurling. And then bringing to mind a friend, somebody who's a good friend, roughly the same age, where we don't feel any sort of sexual attraction to, just to keep it simple. They're just a friend. And what we do now is we're directing our wanting towards them. So we're wanting their well-being, that we're wanting their happiness. And the way that we can bring that about is by seeing them for what they are, seeing them for the fact that they're a human being who's subject to life's ups and downs. Who's trying to make their way in the world. So we're trying to have a sense of caring what happens to them. So people are often our friends because we find it enjoyable being around them. They're often helpful to us. But what we're trying to do is see things from their perspective, not just what benefits us, but we're looking for what benefits them. Wishing them well on just on their own account. So in the third stage we bring to mind what we call a neutral person. Somebody who maybe works in the shop, supermarket, that we see around. That we don't have any strong feelings, either for or against. They're just neutral to us. So if somebody's neutral, the emotion that we feel towards them is probably something a little bit like indifference. So maybe we're seeing them a little bit like an object. Asking ourselves the question, is this what they are? Are they an object? What they are, in fact, is a human being who wants to be well, who doesn't want to suffer. Just trying to shift our view of them to be more in line with that truth. And if we really see them as a human being, it's natural that we want to then care for them, treat them with sensitivity and respect, wish them well. So just allowing our view of the person to condition our emotional response. And responding with kindness towards them. May they be well. So in the fourth stage, we bring to mind somebody that we're having difficulty with at the moment. So maybe when we see this person, we find it painful to be around them. Maybe with the difficult person, or the person we find difficult, what's going on is we're seeing them as a bit like an object in our way. Maybe they're preventing us from having some experience, or from something something happening for us. But is this what they are? Just like the neutral person, they're just a human being who wants to be happy and not suffer. So can we just put down our concern with ourselves and wish them well? Even though they don't give us what we want. And just checking that you're still letting your body just sit there. Your spine is balanced. You're unfurling any tension in your muscles, letting it fall away towards the ground. We're just trying to shift our emotion towards the difficult person, to be a bit kinder, a bit more understanding. Maybe opening up a bit of space around them. So in the final stage, we bring to mind all four people that we've used in the meditation. trying to see how each is as sensitive to their experience as the next. And allowing a sense of care to flow out to all four. And then bringing to mind the other people around us, people maybe in the same building or street. They too are sensitive to their experience. So allowing that sense of care to flow naturally out towards those people as well. Just in this way, just opening up our heart to the world. People that we get on with, people we don't get on with. People in the same social grouping that we're in, people in other groups. Different political persuasions and skills and outlooks on life. They're all striving for happiness in their own way. So may they all be well. Including all non-human beings, animals and other kinds of beings around the universe. May all beings be well. Okay, so here we go. Amitasuri in the spotlight. So, where would you like to begin, Amitasuri? What would you like? Is there anything that's alive for you at the moment? Are you muted?
Hi Mahabodhi.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. That was really enjoyable.
Yeah, it was nice doing it with you actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so where would I like to begin? Right here. What's alive in me, and what's alive in me is that practice, doing that practice with you. Yeah, what we care for, we want to protect. Yeah, caring for our body, caring for our being, caring for the beings in our life.
Yeah.
Yeah, really felt that, and I realised how much I enjoy being led in
Yeah.
meditation. And the language that you were using was evocative of how responsive my heart is, how responsive to language. Yeah, and emotion. Feeling my emotions, the life of my emotions in my body, sort of wateriness.
Yeah.
And while you were talking, I was tuning into the elements, the water element, the fire element. Yeah. So that's what's alive right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about yourself. So, how did you first? What's your background? What was your background like? Are you from Scotland originally?
Yeah, I'm from Scotland and I'm here in Scotland during the lockdown at my dad's house in St Andrews. Yeah, Glasgow. Born in Glasgow, lived in Glasgow for the first 20 odd years, and fantastic mum and dad, family, wider family, cousins close, uh, cousins, and I grew up with them, and yeah, sort of suburbs,
Yeah.
big brother. Um,
What? And
yeah.
so I've met your mum and dad. Well, they just seem like really kind of positive people. You know.
Yeah, been blessed with that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, actually, my mum died last year, and at the funeral, well, obviously, I knew this to some extent, but at the funeral, the way people spoke about her was that they were seen by her,
Yeah.
believed in people, she believed in them. And partly, it wasn't a surprise to me because she believed in me. She absolutely saw my potential.
Yeah.
And there was part of me, so I say I wasn't surprised, there was part of me was thinking, okay, I have this quality of believing in people, and it matters to me that I see people's how they are and their potential, and I want to come from that place of seeing who they are and their potential. And there's my mum had not, she didn't have the easiest life, and she made something of herself, and she took, yeah. So I thought there I was with my Dharma practice, and this is what was growing this quality of believing, seeing people and believing in the potential. And there was my mum. How much of that I actually probably acquired from
Yeah. Yeah.
living under her roof and
Yeah. Yeah.
learning from
Yeah.
her love.
Yeah. 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 And your dad, it felt like your dad was the same, really.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for saying that. And it's interesting because we've not had this conversation, but through my sort of adulthood, I have gone places with my parents, and they've come and visited me where I've lived, and I do introduce them to my friends. And when I lived in India, they came out for dinner to the same places. And they were so generous and loving. And people, my friends would say to me, "Gosh, your mum and dad." Can I make them my adopted parents? So it's like they like my mum. They like could I have
Yeah.
them as my mum and dad? And
Yeah.
my parents would think that was funny, and that's how it's like treating people as their own,
Yeah.
or caring for people, wanting to protect them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, very fortunate. My dad is the oldest in six children, and my gran, uh, my gran Yule from Bishopbriggs, she would they'd say, oh, you give it, or MD would get a piece at her door, like a piece, like a sandwich.
Uh,
In the word for Scotland, so a sandwich is a piece and jam. So MD would get a piece at my gran's door.
yeah. I remember sort of um, being in the tea area at Manchester Buddhist Centre, and it was almost like I just walked past your dad, and it was almost like he did this recognition thing, like, oh, like he recognised something in me, like I felt seen by him, just like he knew. He knew where energy. You could see where there's energy and potential and all that sort of thing. It's fantastic. That, yeah, 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 yeah. So did you? So what did you go to university?
I was a bit in school. Well, I think when I was 11, my dad had a business where he employed boys and girls, like paper boys. The thing was the paper, but you got a paper run. My dad sold fresh cream, and he had cream boys and girls around outskirts Glasgow, and suburbs of Glasgow, and like delivering the milk. It would be a little carton of cream. It's home deliveries of cream, and we had customers. So I always wanted a job. So when I was 11, my dad, I think he was supposed to be 12, but my dad gave me my first job
Yeah,
because I wanted to. My pal had immigrated when I was 10, and I wanted to visit her in Australia. So my dad says, if you can get half the money, I'll go halfers with you. So by the time I was 11, I had half the money to go to Australia, and they let me go alone. Yeah, I mean, I flew myself. They did come down to London with me, but it was a child's fair. Yeah, so it wasn't that much. It was like 120 quid each. I mean, a return, 250 quid return or something like that when
Yeah.
in the 80s. So that was an adventure. And my cousin now says, Amitasuri, I don't even know if I let my kids go to town or go to the train or go to Glasgow on their own when they're 11.
So you flew to Australia on your own when you were 11?
Yeah.
Yeah, viewers, can you see why I want Amitasuri on here? Yeah.
I had a friend who lived there. So they met me when I got there, but I was out in the airports on my own at the connections, and yeah. But yeah. So that was in my teens, and then in my 20s. Gosh, I've forgotten the thread I was going to tell you. You said, did I go to uni?
Yeah.
No, late teens. I think I sort of got a bit rebellious and wasn't the best or easiest teenager.
Right.
I suppose it's the true of many, and then that sort of extended into my early 20s. Got involved with people that were probably not the best people to be involved with in the rave scene as well. After sort of went to football games and wasn't very kind. People weren't kind to one another, and there was violence, and then raves. And I wasn't that kind to my parents when I came home at all. I'd be out all weekend, and I wasn't in a good state when I got home, and I've got some regrets around that. And when I started practicing the Dharma, I felt the pain of my behaviour and the effect it had on them, and it took years to sort of try and show that, apologise, and I've turned it around. They see that, and I think they're glad I'm a Buddhist.
Yeah.
So I didn't go to uni then. No, I was a bit of a dosser on the dole, and when in my early 20s, I did get a good job. I loved the Scotland on Sunday newspaper. My mum was always encouraging me to apply for these jobs, and I wasn't that into it. And then I saw this job for advertising in the travel section. I loved to travel, and I went and got it. And in my first couple of years, my induction actually in Edinburgh, the Scotsman office, I collapsed at my induction week, and I had no idea why. And I got taken to hospital, and that's when I got diagnosed with kidney disease. But I went back to work.
How old was that? What?
I was in my early mid-20s.
Yeah.
So I was at the Scotsman in Glasgow, Scotland on Sunday, for 2 or 3 couple of years, and the kidney doctor that had seen me said, if anything happens to you, come and see me. And I just thought, yeah, like I still partied, I still went out and didn't really take care of myself, and something happened that I got a headache. I'd gone to a friend's house and I'd taken one sip of a glass of wine before we went out to a club, and this really big headache happened, and I kept it the whole weekend, and it was really, we have headaches, but by the Monday, or bank holiday Monday, by the time I made it home to my mum's house, mum and dad's house, after a big weekend, then I said, if I don't wake up and this is gone before I go to work, then I need to do something. And I said to my mum, I did wake up, and I didn't even sleep. So I knew that I had to go to the hospital. And my mum says, why not the doctor? I said, the doctor can't help me anymore, something's wrong. And I was having a brain hemorrhage. So my mum came with me, and we went I said, take me to that kidney doctor, she knows something. So I don't know what, I just knew that I remembered her words.
Yeah.
She took me straight away, got me a CAT scan and a CT scan, and then said, okay, you're having a hemorrhage, we need to get you to the neurological hospital. And my mum followed the ambulance in her car, which for me is like, I can't think of the qualities of a mother, of a mother and her daughter's blue lighted to having a brain hemorrhage, and you're driving behind it. So my mum did that. So that's a big icon for me, big like admiration for me. So obviously I'm here. I've survived the staff, the team, and it was 50-50. You know, I knew that they asked me, they said, you've got a 50% chance of making it or not making it. Do you want this surgery?
Yeah.
At the time it was actual surgery. It was like opening the brain, drilling a hole in the skull. And I said, yeah, if I can, of course, if I've got a 50% chance of survival. And my recovery was, you know, I woke up and I couldn't speak, but I knew this gut knowing why I'm alive. I had an experience while I was unconscious. It wasn't like life, it was life or death. It was like walking a line. Am I ready to die? And there was this embodied knowing. I was unconscious, but this decision was made that I'm not ready to die. There's more for me to live.
Yeah.
And that was a decision that was decided. It's like, okay, that was it.
Yeah.
And then when I woke up, it was like meta. It was all this energy was being given to me. People were praying for me at the time. People were doing meditations for me, or all sorts of things to get me out of this state of unconsciousness after brain surgery. And it physically lifted me up, and they put me back down in intensive care. They said, you can't sit up, you've got to lie flat. And my knowing that why I'm alive, I've never had to revise it, is to help as many people as possible to realise their potential. Help as many people as possible to realise their potential. And I've never, you know, those that I couldn't speak it because I couldn't speak at that point.
Yeah.
But who gets that? To know in their body being.
Yeah.
Well, I knew that I was this wee lassie from Glasgow that grew up in Rangers and Celtic and fish and chips, and how was I going to do that? Who was I? But I knew I'd spend the rest of my life working it out.
Yeah.
So from there, I sort of started. I'd meditated. I'd been to the Glasgow Buddhist Centre by then, and I knew that meditation had something to do with it because I couldn't speak. I'd get frustrated. My mind wasn't thinking straight, and I worked for a newspaper where words were involved, so I stopped being able to read as well. It was too much for me. It was too overwhelming to see text. And I got a lot of help in that year, and then back to the Scotsman. So that's my mid-20s, and I sort of shift the turnaround to starting to admit I didn't want to be Buddhist. I didn't want any religion. I'd had enough of that. But it took another couple of years for me to realise or admit that I might be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very striking how often people who've got that really strong vision, like you just expressed, you know, in life, I'm thinking, you know, have had some sort of medical thing, you know, where it's really challenged them at a certain point. Really, I suppose, made it kind of the limitations of life, you know, a bit more strongly apparent than that, you know. I'm thinking about Sangharakshita, who spent 2 years in bed, you know, with having a heart condition as a child and stuff. And I think Johnny Rotten as well, you know, it's the same, you know, he had some, I think might have had meningitis or something like that. And yeah, so people are very focused. You're very focused like that. Similar, I think, you know. Maybe that's it, you know, that vision just came out of that experience, you know. Yeah.
And at Danakosha, after, you know, for a while after that, I spent a lot of time at Danakosha.
It's a retreat centre in Scotland, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of hours outside Glasgow. And I read Bante's book. I don't know if I read it. I really seemed to dip in to bits of books, you know, and book Learning to Walk. And I thought, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that much about the Dharma. I had been to meditation practices and learnt a little bit through hearing of Buddhists, but here's a story about somebody who's come through. So that inspired me,
Yeah. So I remember when I first met you, you had like dreadlocks and stuff. Is What was that part of? Was that?
Well, I was gonna I'd wanted to travel. I always wanted to travel around the world, and after the brain hemorrhage, I knew that I had to do it to find out what it was that I was meant to do with my
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, I got enough money from the Scotsman job. I left it, and I got a job that paid quite a lot. It was a BT, basically sales job again,
yeah,
and within a year, I had enough to fund myself around the world, plus have a keep putting money aside while I was working. So I'd work in countries that could pay me, and I'd spend it and work voluntary on other countries.
yeah,
So when I started, I went to Israel, Egypt. I flew to Egypt first, and I got my hair because it had grown back after that being shaved. I'd had another operation on the other side, so I'd ceased shaved parts, and it had grown back, and I got the top part plaited. So I knew, I thought, oh yeah, yeah, I'll have dreadlocks. So while I was travelling, they sort of formed, and I stayed in Australia for up to a year. My first community, actually, I lived in Vijayaloka outside Sydney.
right, yeah,
So dreadlocks were growing. Yeah, it was a bit of a traveller thing, and had a bit of identity with it. It was quite easy to manage
yeah,
and fun because I met other people, and we'd swap hair, rubbing each other's dreadlocks to sort of maintain them, and as a way of connecting with my tribe.
yeah. And you were in Ireland at one point. Was that?
Yeah, yeah. So when I came back from Australia, that was the point at which I realised I might be a Buddhist and that I wanted to commit. So it was a few years on from my first walking through the Glasgow Buddhist Centre doors. I'd lived in Vijayaloka. I worked for Greenpeace Australia, and then I worked part time at the retreat centre,
Yeah,
making compost and breeding worms, and supporting retreats and things. So I came back from my brother's wedding in the late 90s and knew that I wanted to live in a Buddhist context. Mitra study, to become a Mitra. I'd been at a Mitra ceremony in Australia, and I thought, what are you messing about for?
yeah,
Just admit it.
yeah,
It's not, it's helping me be more kind. I'm definitely changed. So I found a situation where I could go to. I thought I'd try different places, Cambridge, wherever I could go that had a Mitra convener. And Dublin had a shop, an evolution shop, where I could work with other Buddhists. They had a
yeah,
Buddhist centre, meditation centre at the time, but it was run by Buddhists. It's just the gentle approach in Ireland at the time. Didn't want to be overtly Buddhist, but
yeah,
they obviously were. And a Mitra convener, Padmavasini, and I went there and lived with another woman until four of us set up a community in which I lived for 3 and a bit years,
yeah, yeah,
working in the shop.
yeah,
And I got a bit ill at the end of that, and homeopathy helped me. So
yeah,
I came to England to do a homeopathy degree.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Were you at that first Butterfield retreat in Ireland?
Yeah, I
I
think
think
I was
I
at the
must have might have seen you first.
yeah, I was at the first Buddha Field retreat festival in England as well. I'd come somehow found my way there, and so when I moved to Ireland, I still came over
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah. That's right.
set it up in Ireland. Yeah, in Wicklow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You were there. I think you were drumming. We
that's right.
got a good team over from the UK. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of crazy. A lot of people kind of came out of that. I think got involved with Butterfield and
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah,
a really iconic time.
yeah, yeah. About 2000, I think that was. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you went out at a certain point. You went out to India and uh, trained in, was it homeopathy and stuff?
Actually, know me well, Mahabodhi.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, so after when I was in Ireland and I came over to the UK to do this honours degree, and after my degree, I'd been going to India. I had a connection with India, and I'd met a Mitra out there at the time who became Soka, and I had been in because yeah, the first that time I did the big worldwide travel for a couple of years. I'd spent a lot of time in India before and after Australia, and I'd worked there. I'd learned a bit of the language, and I'd been really taken by it. So I kept going, and I knew I wanted to support the bringing into being of centre at the Bodh Gaya land.
Oh yeah,
So I'm involved in a team there, and I was collaborating with a team and trying to consult with
with Nishoka. Nishoka was involved, wasn't it?
Nasoka. Yeah, so
Buddha
with
Vajra. Yeah, yeah,
Nasoka. So Nasoka and I were the sort of UK contingent.
yeah,
Got some people from India involved because obviously it's in India, and I interviewed Bhante Sangharashta to find out what was his original vision for the land, and we got clear objectives from him. We made a little film about it. I got help from the team at Majumaloka, the use of the clear vision cameras, and then we edited it all, and we've got a film now. So we cut me out because it was about Bhante and stating his aims and vision for the land in Bodh Gaya, and I think that's still really valuable just now to know what he wanted to bring about. So yeah, I stayed involved in that. So after my degree in Central Lancashire in Preston, I went overland to India because I had a few months. I managed to get myself into Mumbai University as a postgrad at a homeopathic clinic or training institute, research institute in Pune, where Triratna has a lot of involvement in a lot of centres there and a lot of Buddhists. So I managed to get my visas to Iran and Pakistan, and went with a friend from Manchester who'd been a trial patient in my final year in my degree, and we went overland. We got a flight to Greece so that we were near Turkey, the border from Europe, and took a few months, spent time in Turkey, Iran and Pakistan, and then got to Pune where I lived for a year and 18 months. My course, about just over a year and a half.
What years was that then?
Oh, my memory, because of the brain damage, memory is not my best point, and chronology, like when things happened. When was that?
You're doing pretty well, really.
After my degree, which was early 2000s, and before my ordination, which was 2007. So it was about 2003 to 5 or something like that. Yeah. So I finished and came back. My parents visited me a couple of times there as well. I travelled a bit and made great friends. And around about the Osho community, I mean, I met people from there and some were involved, but others were students, Persian friends, real fondness for Iran. And I learnt to sing in Persian, Farsi. I learnt, when I've been to countries, often I'll learn a song because I can't converse with people, but people in India particularly, I learnt to speak Hindi through singing. And once I could sing about 30, 40 songs, I thought, you know what, I'm speaking to people in song lyrics. Why don't I make the commitment and just learn the verb structure and the language, how to speak the language? So that's what I did. And then at uni I did night class. I went to night school and I studied Urdu, which is similar language but different written from Hindi, which I've been trying to learn. So it was a bit much to learn to write both of them. But what's in common is the spoken language. So I love meeting Indian or Pakistani people or people who speak the language.
Yeah.
So when travelling overland, learning to speak in Farsi or learning songs in Farsi was amazing because people would be saying, God, before you learn, why would you let you? Yeah. And even now, meeting Persian people, the effect of that country on me, the poetry of it, their language is made up of poetry. So Rumi and Hafiz, that's Whirling Dervishes, that's Turkey, Iran, but the beauty of the fabrics, the paisley pattern, the rugs, just beautiful, generous, noble people.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm affected by the countries and the people.
Yeah. I mean, over the years, I've just been astonished literally astonished by your capacity for just moving towards people in all sorts of situations, and I just found it really inspiring, really, as a Buddhist. So thanks, thank you for all that. Well, I can see the lineage of your parents and all that, kind of in a way, partly where it's come from, that kind of it being important, you know, to connect with people and to be behind people and stuff. Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Appreciate having that seen. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No,
it
it,
matters to me a lot. And fortunately, yeah, like you say, the lineage of my parents, fortunately, is it quite easy? It's a yeah, connection, longing for connection and wanting to offer
yeah,
connection because it's true. Connection, everything's connected.
great. Yeah, that's exactly what I want you to say. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean, I probably have my resistances. I do have my resistances as well. If I think that what I might say has an effect that might not be pleasant or comfortable, and that is the case.
yeah,
I was thinking about this in my practice. That where's resistance? And I'm somebody who wants things to be on the table. I might not always like what's there on the table, but I'd like that it's on the table
yeah,
and I can get used to it and go, oh yeah, okay, then that's not going away, is it? That needs some attention.
yeah,
I can see what it is. I
yeah,
mean this about what does that mean on the table? I mean this about my mental states. I mean this about my behaviour, my speech. How can I change it if I don't know what it is? And because I'm subjective, how can I know what it is without you?
yeah,
Without people reflecting me back and saying, did you know that you did that? Did you know how that was for me?
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I can guess, but no,
yeah,
unless, I mean, I think I do guess. I think I'm a little bit perceptive. I don't always get it quite right, but that's the nature of relationship.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I value people, and when I was listening to your meditation there, realizing the importance to me, for me, of being around people who are practicing, who are kind, who are speaking in a way that's beautiful, like Rainer Maria Rilke, he has an expression, he says, never have I loved language so much in another. Oh, how you make me love language. And when people are speaking truth, or speaking kindly, or what Banti talks about is communication and taking delight. When I'm amongst people who are expressing gratitude, who are valuing one another, who are offering kindly feedback,
mm,
who are taking delight, it's uplifting. I feel uplifted. It grows.
mm, mm,
So I want to associate with the wise, with kind and the wise,
yeah, yeah,
and be that. And I think I am that to some people, uh, and be around people who are that, who are doing that, so that yeah, I
yeah,
can
yeah,
start really enjoying your leading of the practice there and your friendship.
yeah. Yeah, it's like you kind of yeah, it feels like you're kind of committed to the truth as well as like to positive emotion towards people, you know. So it's like yeah, and you've had a kind of lot of involvement with non-violent communication over the years. I mean, I have
Mm-hmm.
to some degree, but I think you've kind of done it more than me.
Yeah, we've had that connection, haven't we? That sometimes we've uh, wanted to offer one another friendship, and we speak us, and we can come into a similar language of helping us get to grips with something through non-violent communication. Yeah, I've enjoyed your friendship in that, Mahabodhi, and that yeah, when people model that, when people show me that, and that it's possible to, like you say, commitment to the truth. It's possible to live in a loving way. It's possible to connect to myself in a loving way when I'm in non-violent communication. NVC would say jackaling myself. A jackal is something like this. They use puppets to go, or judging myself, my own inner critic, whatever the language is. There's lots of models of dialogue and resonant language that use similar, talk about the shadow, talk about similar Mara, Buddhist Mara, holding you back from something. So non-violent communication can make it like street language accessible. I was going to say street giraffe. So while there's the jackal, there's the giraffe who listens with loving heart and speaks with loving words and can, with the animal with the biggest heart. So the jackal and the giraffe, both of them are here. You know, he's got Marshall Rosenberg, who founded it, uses puppets to say, you're just doing this. And the giraffe will say, oh, so you're feeling concerned because it really matters to you that your words land with love to the person receiving them. Is that what's going on, Amitasuri? And I'll say, yeah. What did you say that to me for? Oh, it matters to you that you land as you care, lands as care. Yeah. So yeah, that the vagus nerve. So yeah, there's non-violent communication in the world can heal, and it's not always easy. It's not easy, and I've got a lot to learn too. So I'm involved, and I do involve myself in groups. I've got a couple of groups in Nottingham. I've got a couple of online things, and I actually connected with an online group this week in Glasgow on Zoom. It was just an hour long. I knew somebody that facilitates the group and told me that the group are running themselves, so I dipped in. And you know, if I could make a contribution, and it's mutual, because I value being around people who are practicing that.
Yeah.
To be more fluent and eloquent and expressive of what's alive in me, like your first question.
Yeah.
Gratitude's mostly alive in me much of the time, and that's my baseline, gratitude.
Yeah.
Which, with the counter of generosity, people I feel really given to. People have been so generous to me, and it lives in me as a longing to express and contribute.
On that note, do you want to say anything about your kidney transplant? Because that was a that was a bit of gratitude, wasn't it? That was a gift, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that kidney failure, kidney disease progressed, and after I came back from studying in India, living in India, and I was ordained not long after that in Akashavana, the first year of women being ordained not by women, by women, but in a women's dedicated ordination retreat centre in the mountains of Spain. That was 2007. I came back from that and I did a Karuna appeal, so a door knocking fundraising appeal round the doors of Bristol, and I was so on fire with life and being alive and being ordained and being Amitasuri.
What's your name, mate?
Boundless heroin, unlimited, immeasurable heroin, and I did really well at this. And I've been living in India, so I knew the suffering and it was personal. The connection that I had. So meeting people in Bristol, funky town, had a funky area, had dreadlocks. No, I'd shaved them. I had shaved head. So anyways, I had a great time in Canada, and pretty much straight after that I fell ill with my kidney disease, and I was in hospital for a while, and I moved back into the community that I'd lived prior to going abroad, going to India. So that progressed. It wasn't an immediate complete failure, but kidney failure goes by stages. When you get to stage 5 of kidney failure, you've not got much percentage function left. And at that point, we were looking at, I was on the transplant list, dialysis, and my mum wanted to be matched with me to be a live donor to me. And just before that happened, she'd come down. Yeah, she'd come down. She'd been matched through over much of a year. You have to have certain tissue type matchings, and will I reject her organ and antibody tests? I started developing antibodies against my mum's tissues, and that had to be cancelled. So my mum was no longer a suitable donor, and I'd had a friend who had heard, and she'd asked me, how's your kidneys? And I'd say, it's getting a bit bad now, like they're failing, and I'm going to have to look for a donor. And she was having tea and meeting people in the community with her husband, and they went and had their tea, and they came out, they said, we'll do it, we'll get matched with you. And I said, I've got a DVD that you can take home, and I've got a leaflet you can read and watch, And they said, we don't even need to do that. You need a kidney. If we've got two, and you're telling us that we don't have to, we only need one, then why would we not do that? And for me, somebody who's been ill for years, lived a life, but I've done it with a health condition that's precarious. To hear that somebody would do that, and she says it's a no-brainer. So there was a process that went involved, and they were so courageous, this couple. They involved me all along the way, and it came to, there was a point at which I got ill again. I was in hospital for the next month, and it was almost before the transplant date. And I was close to, sometimes I was on night watch because my condition was so precarious that they didn't want me to go to sleep. And I was like, leave me alone, I'm fine. And I was fevered, and so I didn't know how close to death I might have been at that point. And they kept pulling me through. And after a month, I got out, and I tried to go ahead with that transplant on the date, and they cancelled it. And I was gutted, absolutely gutted, and afraid that I wouldn't make it to survive, to wait however long it needed to be before I got well. If I thought I was just had a window of wellness that might. Anyway, the woman stayed with me, and so incredibly, it's my life. She has enabled me to live.
Yeah.
Quality of life that I have. One of her, I'm her kid. She calls me her kidney sister. So we went ahead. After a couple of months, I actually had to have my own kidneys removed, the diseased kidneys, and they were each at the size of about a rugby ball each. And my ribs had expanded to accommodate. My body had changed to accommodate these two rugby balls. And people would stand up for me thinking I was pregnant, and I was going, I'm not, but thanks. I'd kind of do need your seat. So yes, this was a process of having them out, and I needed recovery time, and then the donation, and she went to hospital as well, and I think she says it's one of the best things that she's ever done, a live donation.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she, like me, she's somebody who absolutely values life.
Yeah.
And so much so that she's given it. So yeah, and she's an advocate now for live donation. And people die without, even knowing that you can help how many people have the quality of life and give. Most people who have had transplants want to give back. Ambassadors for life. And the transplant games, I knew that I wanted to compete. I was never like a big sports person. I like my activities, but it gave me something to move towards, to ride my bike, to enter the cycling races, to swim. I wasn't able to run just yet. It took a bit out of me, but I could swim.
Yeah.
So I got joined a swimming club in Manchester, and got my swimming quite good, and won some medals at the British Transplant Games, where people who've had transplants from all over the country, adults and children, it's so moving, come together in these games, and usually around about universities or sports cities that have got good sports facilities. So that's my mum and dad have both come to games with me, and been inspired by living donors, the deceased donor network, people who've said yes to their family having their organs donated. They will often meet the people who've received their family members' organ, and it's just awe. So I'm very, very grateful to be part of that community, and to be well. 2007, I was ordained 13 years ago today.
Oh, was it? Well, happy birthday.
Yeah, and it's not far, it's round about now that the transplant happened in 2012. So significant dates, I have to remember the dates. So that's 8 years ago. I've had my transplant for 8 years.
Yeah. So your donor, was she a Buddhist?
Yeah, she was involved in her Sangha, and I think she's involved in another Sangha in Manchester. So yeah, she's practices. I think still lives in Manchester.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe the Thich Nhat Hanh, the interbeing. So interesting, Thich Nhat Hanh Sangha. There's this community of interbeing.
Yeah.
So she lives that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wrote a poem once, and the first line of it is, "We don't just be, we interbe." That's I with you and you with me.
Yeah. So like now, so what your job is now is to be a spiritual practitioner in NHS Trust and kind of Buddhist chaplain. So how
Yeah.
so how did that come about?
So realising now that it's 8 years since I've had my transplant and 13 since I've been ordained, after the transplant, a bit of recovery time, and even then I tried to again to do a Karen appeal, and I ended up in the Royal London.
I remember.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, not that it's nothing against Karen appeals, just that I put a lot into it, and the conditions, it was coincidental in that situation, uh, and I still had recovery time. I think, that's me, I've got my kidney, off I go. I lived in a community, so the community were supportive. I got involved in Dharma things and nonviolent communication and friendship. And I volunteered. I knew that I wanted to give back to the hospital. And having been a spiritual practitioner since my 20s, since I got kidney failure, diagnosed kidney disease, and I've been in hospital, I've had a spiritual practice. So 20 something, 27 years maybe. And I've seen patients who don't. I see staff who struggle.
No,
I
yeah, because you'll have had lots of contact with them all, won't you? You know.
families.
Yeah.
And when I just had my transplant, somebody, still to this day, I do not know who, somebody anonymous, donated or sponsored or funded someone in the order to come and visit me and chant to my new kidney. And that someone was Mahasuka, who does the Beauty of Mantra.
Yeah.
Soulful singing is his game, his workshops, and
Yeah.
he came from Brighton, and came to the hospital and spent time with me. It was like a chaplain. I had lots of fantastic visitors and support during that time. I just infinite. And here was one who wouldn't visit me from Brighton necessarily. I do consider him my friend, and in that situation, he came and he wore his kesa. We drew the curtain. He chanted the Shakyamuni mantra that he had composed. This beautiful, beautiful mantra, and that was the landing of the kidney in my body, receiving these waves of compassion and inspiration and faith. And I didn't care if people around me heard. I wanted them to hear and feel that. They couldn't feel it how I was feeling it being chanted. And at the end of near the end of the chant, Mahasuka actually came, and from his wearing his kesa, he put the kesa onto me, and it was like, okay, here I am, this being who lives the Dharma life, and this kidney is embedded, and for the good of the world. There's so many things that were cathartic or catalysts to wanting to give in a way that was meaningful to patients and staff and families.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I thought maybe I'll drive a hospital car. But then I found out about I met a chaplain, a woman in Manchester who came and visited me. She was from the Free Church, and she wore butterfly things. She was quite easy, accessible, friendly woman. And I just thought, yeah, what you do. So I started visiting the chaplaincy office and writing them letters and saying, right, I think I should be involved in your team and coming to do chaplaincy. And I managed to find a course. Art of Adden helped me actually, and sort of meeting up with me and mentoring in a way to say, okay, that course is like a Leeds University chaplaincy course, and it's quite Christian based. And I mean, they would take me, but it was theology, and there may be something else. And I found a Buddhist healthcare chaplaincy organisation, which I'm now on the trust. I'm now on the committee to help other people access chaplaincy training and chaplains. So I became a volunteer I came a chaplaincy volunteer in Manchester, and then when I did my training, I became a volunteer chaplain, and then an honorary chaplain. I had a brilliant team. They really supported me at my learning and let me practice what I'd been learning theoretically in the trust, in the hospitals. And then I was fully endorsed, so I was a chaplain and started applying for jobs, which was a little bit harder as a Buddhist because historically, chaplain, the word even, is think from Chapelle. I can't remember the history, but I thought it was to do with chapel, but it's a bit more to it than that. I met with challenges. I don't have a theology degree, and I don't really want to do a theology degree. I do have a person-centered degree, which is about therapeutic relationship. So for me, I could evidence that I had communication and caring qualifications that are essential for chaplaincy skills. Plus, I had a chaplaincy endorsement and good standing, my ordination training, so many life experience. The experience of being a patient for 20 years. Spiritual practice. So I really thrived in that environment. I could just walk into a ward and hold like the Brahma Viharas, the four, divine abodes of metta, loving kindness, compassion, karuna, mudita, appreciative joy, and upekkha, equanimity. So that would be my practice before I opened the ward door. I'd stand and I'd abide in those living energies and meet people with that. So in physical, general, acute healthcare settings, that's clear. And the job that I actually I applied for, was in a mental health trust. I still do the same practice. It's a little bit different because I don't know people's condition. I'll never know. I don't ask necessarily. But some people are under insecure units for their safety, for our safety, public safety. Therefore, I have to take safeguarding caution. And they're just going and sitting beside people's bed, and it's not like that. It's different, but it's the same compassionate presence that I live. I don't always get to meet their families. It's them in their area, their ward, because they don't get out necessarily. Some do, depend on the hospital I'm at. So for the last 3 and a bit years, I've been working in a chaplaincy post, and my role that I do in it is spirituality and well-being practitioner. Bit of a mouthful, but I love that it's more broad. I am a Buddhist chaplain. I'm a healthcare chaplain. I'm a Buddhist. I'm a Buddhist chaplain, and I'm there for everybody. So spirituality is the overarching umbrella under which religion, meaningful meaning, it lives.
So does it include the other NHS staff as well?
Staff and patients, definitely. So at the moment at my work while I'm in lockdown is more staff connection.
Right.
So it's fast. Everybody needs some care. Like you care, you want to protect people. What is going on for you that needs some care? What gives you meaning? So and there's not one definition of spirituality. So it's more about its dialogue. Just for staff to know that somebody's there, that they're cared for, that they're valued, that they can feel that. And not my job. I don't want it to be that I'm saying you're valued. I want them to find it in themselves.
That's how it works, isn't it? Really, yeah. Self-discovery rather than
So a lot of what I've lived through and done helps me be a sounding board, or be a sounding board, or be a witness, not just a witness, but
So you're kind of guiding people in their own self-discovery of their own kind of spirituality, or connection with themselves.
Context, I'm present to what's there, and there's no way of knowing how it will go, but it's maybe guiding, maybe listening, reflecting back, asking, and making links. Actually, I can, if it's a patient, bringing, I've got some resources this week and last week, working from home. There's this situation in a medium secure hospital that I'm not able to go, and I was feeling a little bit flat with the Black Lives Matter, what had happened to George Floyd, and my emotions were, I was in pain. Because my ignorance of what did I do, and I needed to shift something because I've got a job to do, and I decided to paint and make cards. I'm running a painting competition and a poetry competition for the summer solstice, and the prizes will be like a summer poetry book or a colouring book for patients who put in a painting or a poem about summer solstice. And I thought, you do it then. You write a poem, write a poem, paint something. You do a painting. And I thought I'll do a painting, and I cut it up and I made it into cards for each ward. So yesterday I was handwriting. I was writing the cards that I want to give to them and saying that I'm thinking about them, and let the light shine, the summer light shine externally, and what are the things they want to light up in themselves. So yeah. So that's the principle of it. It's a bit different because I can't be there doing it myself, and I have to also write an instruction package for the occupational therapists and the people who will facilitate that competition and the ritual involved. What we're grateful for. We're going to have a tree that they'll take a field walk and they'll go out to hang their wishes or what they're grateful for onto the tree, and the sunlight can shine on them and the wind will blow them and they'll be out in nature. And yeah, so this I create events in the hospitals for staff and for patients, and that was last week's, and it'll be next week hopefully if I can get it completed and pass it on. So
Yeah.
do I direct things in a way, offering a context for which people can find what's meaningful for them and what's alive for them. Like again, your question.
Yeah. So what sort of like feedback loop do you get from people? Because often I think when there's that concept of flow, isn't there, where happiness is often connected with getting immediate feedback results. So do you feel like you get feedback quickly from people?
Yeah. So it's a good question. I think I thrive on. I'm sort of responsive, and even if I don't, I actually probably will never know for this situation. But immediate feedback from doing the paintings, making the cards, or I called someone yesterday, and he just hearing his delight that I've been doing all this. He didn't actually know. He'll be one of the people who enact the ritual, who facilitate the ritual, and he'll probably not channel me, but I've involved him, this guy, in rituals before, and I'll get him to come and play a summer song or on his guitar, and he's maybe be a little bit shy, but then he gets into it, and he's just such a key part, and he doesn't always know it. So I happened to speak to him yesterday and introduce what my ideas were and what my plans were and what the hospital, the manager of the service, had encouraged and supported. And he said, yeah, I'll be doing it. So I could hear it in his voice that he was really glad that he could have a key part in an activity that he knows will enliven patients. I do summer solstice, winter solstice, and I'll usually create something fun, but that's got meaning. They'll go and plant a bulb, and that bulb will be the growing of their intention. So this spring, I know that those bulbs are flowering. I've not seen them, but I know when they get the day that they go to the shop. So each ward will go to the shop at a particular time, particularly in the week, and they can see in the garden outside the shop that the pot of bulbs from their ward that some of them have planted to grow their own intentions in the winter. So in the darkness, the plants go towards the light, and I've asked them, did a little meditation, little reflection about what do you want to grow in yourself in the dark time, what is good. So now it'll be, what are you shining a light on? So I may not see that, but I know those bulbs are flowering. I can hear it in this guy's voice, like response, even immediately me doing the painting. I feel better. Feedback. So lots of good question. I'm really into feedback loops. And if it's not there, if it's not a clear feedback, I get a little bit thrown. Somehow, even though I'll never see the results of this thing, but I think there's faith. There's enough faith for me to know that I am doing this and it will have an effect. And some people in those settings cannot show it. That's the condition.
You kind of know, don't you? Like certain things have a universal effect. You don't need to have it all spelt out and stuff. Yeah. And do you? I mean, with you speaking now, I just reminded of Butterfield Festival, and me being involved in big rituals and things, and getting that immediate feedback of like a crowd going, "Yeah," you know. And it just keeps you going for years, you know, when you get a kind of massive response from people and stuff. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, that's your skill and talent, Mahabodhi. This vibrancy that comes through your voice, not just the amplification, the energy in your voice, but the tone can come through at a volume.
yeah,
And that even hearing your laughter just now, the joy that's in it, you can hear that emotion through that sound. So sound is a good,
yeah,
the
yeah,
face, visual, the face, and you said it can keep you going for years. Even that, when was the last, we can touch into that. I love that about the body, the system, and the mind. It doesn't know whether something
yeah,
happened in the past or whether it's happening now.
yeah,
When we think about it, we
yeah.
feel that same connection to joy.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like lots of people, like now the whole world's in lockdown, are just kind of looking for that or missing that, that big connection with people, or the sort of ritual side of things, I suppose, maybe of coming together and kind of yeah, I don't know what I'm saying, but it's like, yeah, I just feel like I'd like to do that for the world a bit more, get people doing something, anything really that's going to connect them up with in their new situations that are unfamiliar, and it's
And
like
here you are.
re-establishing values, or kind of, yeah, what do we do? Now might not have a job to go back to, or what, that sort of thing. So yeah, we're dealing with change, and yeah, yeah.
You are doing it, Mahabodhi,
Well, I'm
by
just yeah,
offering this.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
and that's what I feel, a lot of admiration and gratitude to people who are doing this in the lockdown, offering their practice. In the morning I do the meditation, I do a qigong with my friend in Ireland, and then I do this Wim Hof ice shower, breathing routine and cold shower.
yeah,
I practice, and it's all been given. Here this morning I did your meditation and movement, and this. May this inspire beings. I don't know who they are. I
yeah,
know
yeah,
that Olivia might be watching. uh, I don't know who people are that might see this. You don't either. But there you are giving.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
that's where I can have faith
yeah, 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 yeah.
and
So
gratitude.
yeah, yeah. So in your work, work, have you encountered any kind of difficulties, that have come up with? Obviously, there will be in any situation, and how have you coped with those? Do you want to say anything about
Yeah. Fortunately, I have a supervisor who and colleagues uh, who are there for me to help me process
that? Yeah,
things. Actually, yesterday, yeah, interesting. And there's a confidentiality situation that there's certain people that I don't name people. And I actually did name people in here, and I felt it was safe for some of the people that I did or didn't mention. Um, I had yesterday, somebody in a hospital was looking for spiritual support, and this is amazing because I got a hold of somebody got in touch with me, told me. I managed to facilitate a call with the patient yesterday. On one of the team from the ward were there, and after the call I wondered, do I need to process this? Do I need to talk to my supervisor? Do I need to talk to somebody? I did an email. I'd spoken to my lead beforehand. I texted a colleague around it because I
mm,
might share it with her. I might pass it on to her. And then at the end of it, I didn't do a supervisor a call. I thought, I'm okay with this, and I'll send an email just to anchor it. And I shared it with the ward staff, who the patient's care, who who are responsible for the patient's care.
Mm.
So I have support networks, and it's a bit like in nonviolent communication. You can talk about an empathy sandwich. And I offer this to people actually, and I ask for it. Bookend. Is it empathy sandwich? Maybe there's getting my models mixed up.
Is it?
Do you know what that is, Mahabodhi? Do you know what a
Is it the one where you sort of say something positive, and then you say something that could be improved, and then you say something that you've personally benefited from that person, or something like that? Is that? So it's
That's
like,
great. No, I hadn't thought of that. I like that.
yeah. So it's like the
Yes.
difficult bit to hear is sandwiched between two bits of positivity, and the last one is about how you've personally benefited from that person. You know? Yeah.
Thank you very much. I did say empathy sandwich, and I think that's what an empathy sandwich is, and I like that. I don't think I use that enough.
Yeah.
Conscious. I might do it, but I'd like to make it more conscious. I did use the wrong term. NVC, it's bookending.
Yeah.
Where you know that you're going to have a difficult conversation or something's happening that you know want some support with. So you ask somebody beforehand, maybe have a phone call or have a check-in.
Mm.
Then you have the whatever it is, and then you talk to the person again, or you can tune in again in the way that you've agreed. So it's bookended, that difficult conversation, that meeting, that interview, that whatever it is.
Mm.
You've got a before, a during, because you know that they're there with you. I sort of imaginatively wishing people well, and then again I'll talk to them at the end, or they'll talk to me if it's me that set it up. So that support is invaluable.
Yeah.
I do value team, very very much a value team, and I work quite a lot on my own. So I've had to create little team relationships with other teams in different hospitals. And while we've been in lockdown, I feel really pleased about this. Communications within internal secure systems have not been easy to work out, and to get VPNs, get techie systems set up in people's home within a private network of a hospital where there's information that it's got to be secure.
Yeah.
But the relationships between our team don't need that level of security. We've got enough training to not mention detail. So I set up Zoom calls, weekly Zoom calls with my team, and not just my team, the wider chaplaincy team. There's about 22 or 23 of us, and I didn't know half of them. I don't work with half of them, I work with a few. And every week we've got about 7, 8, 9 people on a call, and we're spiritual practitioners of different faiths, and we've created a little 40-minute routine.
Wow.
We sit together in silence.
Yeah.
I ask a question like, what keeps you inspired? Or I'll ask someone to bring a question. Someone had one from the Bible last week about how do you stay strong and calm in times of chaos. This week was how do you protect yourself when you're an empath? And we went round just a few minutes each just hearing that, and it's so rich. So we know one another as a team. I don't think we've ever been so strongly connected as a team.
Yeah. Well, through the lockdown, it's actually helped.
It's incredible, and I probably put it in writing, but I spoke to the lead yesterday, and I said, are you happy for us to continue this beyond lockdown? Whatever happens next, we start going into the hospitals, can we keep this up 40 minutes a week? And it works. And it's incredible how fond I feel, how supported I feel, how enriched I feel by people that I've never met or worked with. The couple of Catholic priests that work, and I'm so fond of them and what they share. Mostly Christians, was Quaker. There's another Buddhist. There's another colleague that's a spirituality and wellbeing practitioner with me. So people, the Imam came on this week. I'm delighted because I've been on at him. Been saying, how can I help you access this? He says, I don't know how to get on, and I've given him instructions. So it's for him to come and ask, what is this about? And his sharing from his faith perspective, his life perspective, it's just precious. So connection, relationship, that's what supports me.
Yeah. Oh, it's really great to hear that. Because that coming together of different religions on a very kind of human level. Yeah. I would like just helping people on that. Yeah, yeah. This thing with the lockdown. I mean, I was just thinking this morning that it's like just under 3 months since I started doing these sessions. And I've done. This is number 71, and I can't remember what I was doing before that. It's been so kind of transformative, really, to just be, to just be working with people and trying to get the Dharma out there, and to sharing older members and their inspirations and lives and all that sort of thing. Yeah, so it's we've got something to be grateful for, haven't we, with the lockdown and all that sort of thing. Yeah, in a way. Although it's obviously, yeah, it's bad for a lot of people and that. Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Amitasuri. It's been really brilliant. Would you like to lead us out with something? I don't know what, but like a poem or anything, something. Putting you on the spot here, but.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I was thinking, if I sing a song, but so a poem's probably a little bit less risky. I could sing you an Indian or Persian song, but I think I'll share a poem. Actually, one that I'm not so sure that I know all the words to, but I'll wing it.
Yeah.
And it's one of my own, and it's called "What Can I Give." What can I give? What can I give? What can I give? Any of us might have that question. I've got nothing. What can I give? What can I give to you? Yeah. What can I give to you? To you who is so kind. I could give you lots of other stuff, but I think I'll share my mind. What could I give to you? To you who gives so much. I could take you out for dinner, but we'd end up going Dutch. What could I give to you? To you who's always caring. I know. I write a poem just for you to express my way of caring. Thanks, Mahabodhi.
Thanks so much, Sherry. Brilliant. Okay. See you later.